Hey everybody, Yanni Matson, Beyond the Pattern here with you. Today I want to give you a detailed walkthrough of my new 2026 Pipistrel Virus SW. It's got the 912 IS Sport Rotax in it, and I haven't done a deep dive into a walk around. We've done some modifications to it. I've had it since March, middle of March in 2026. We did do a bunch of footage of me and my wife Casey going out to Utah, Heber City, Utah, to Elemental Aviation and picking this thing up. Unfortunately, on the way back, my cockpit audio was not recording, so it's okay footage, but you know, I like having the cockpit audio in there. So we're going to try to do our best to put some of those bits and pieces up to the channel here. But Beyond the Pattern, like, follow, subscribe, all that stuff. We'd love to take you along on our aviation journeys. We operate a agricultural spray drone business down here in Texas, south of Fort Worth. So for those of you that aren't familiar with that, basically just big ass DJI, XAG, EA Vision, different drones that basically crop dust pastures, row and field crops, corn, soybeans, cotton, wheat, but also range and pasture. So that's probably 95% of what we do down here is pasture management. So anyway, on to aviation. So I'm going to go ahead and flip the camera around and give you a detailed walkthrough. Just a quick shout out to Bruce's Covers. They got us these really nice cowling covers here, or cowling hole covers, whatever you want to call them. But they work out really well. So if you're looking for good cowling covers that are fitted with your tail number on the flag and everything, Bruce's Covers. Anyway, we're going to talk about this. I'm going to get these prop covers off, and then we'll go into it deeply. Okay, as I said, this is a 2026 Pipistrel Virus SW 912 IS Sport. I bought this aircraft. The primary mission was to travel around the state of Texas. It's a large state, and you know, do some exhibition and also some support of our drone business. First modification we did, I had this Duke Tiger Black 3-blade propeller, all carbon fiber, shipped to Elemental Aviation in advance. This aircraft comes stock with an MT propeller. It's a 2-blade prop. It is also a constant speed prop, adjustable. However, I just really like the look, and I was hoping, and I am getting the performance increase of having a 3-blade prop on here. Really like the way the Dukes look, and the fact that they're all carbon fiber. So get a close look at this. All carbon spinner. The hub is also carbon fiber. So everything on here, it's got this, man, I don't even want to try to pronounce it, like Incontinel or something like that, leading edge. It's a very hard metal, I believe, nickel, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong here. At any rate, beautiful prop. You can get custom colors on the tips. I did white to match the aircraft, but you can do orange, green, whatever. One thing you'll notice on this Virus, different than others, is the scoop up here. This air intake here, I think is obviously probably designed to help cool the engine. And it's got a radiator that's mounted back here. And on the radiator, there's a radiator fan now, a water cooling fan that has been installed. So you have your oil access here, pretty standard Rotax. You burp the engine before you go to check the oil level. So that's done by rotating the prop slowly, kind of get it top dead center, and then move it slowly through that cycle a few times. Usually it takes about 5 or 6 turns, and then it gurgles, and then you check the oil and make sure your levels are okay. Got a really nice LED light, and that's a landing light, obviously. It is a steerable nose gear, which is something I had to adjust to. I'm coming off a 2008 Diamond DA40, which had a free castering nose wheel. So the rudder just controlled the rudder itself, not the steering of the nose wheel. And this one does. So that was something I had to adjust to, but it works great. I typically steer with the brakes at really slow speed and with the steerable nose wheel at a little bit of higher speed taxiing, just to minimize the amount of pressure you have to push down. All right, we'll kind of come down here. We'll do the inside last, but basically I'm going to do the best I can here with one hand here. But you've got these gull wing kind of doors here, and there's a little mechanism right up in here, little pull button. You can see this, you just lift up and pull down, and the door closes like that. Okay, and then you basically just close it like that. All right, so open. If you want to open it, you just open it up and it secures right to that pin right there. Boom. Works really well. A lot of guys taxi with this like this. I'll be honest with you, it sure would be nice to do that. I don't know. The Pipistrel put out a service bulletin saying don't do that, because this will, you know, depending on how much prop wash you have, if you're above idle or, you know, throttling up a little bit to get going when you're taxiing, this can shake, and they're saying it puts undue stress on the two hinges right here. I tend to probably believe that, but who knows? I mean, I don't want to replace them. The doors are expensive, so I'll suffer, you know, in the heat when it's Texas hot. All right, got some nice wheel pants here. They do come with Behringer brakes, so very nice, high quality brakes. We'll progress down the wing here. So you can see up top here, we've got the fuel port. They do have these small fuel ports. Now, what I did was I bought a 50-gallon off Amazon, a 50-gallon Vevor fuel transfer tank, and I keep that in the back of my truck. It's not there now because I already fueled up. But basically, I fill it up with you know, less than 10% ethanol, 93 octane, and at the gas pump pay a lot less, and then I come here and top it off, go fly. I try to put MoGas or automotive fuel in this as much as possible. You can run 100 low lead, no problem. It's made for that, but you really, from what I understand, the service manual says that if you run auto fuel 70% or more of the time, you can do 100-hour inspections and 100-hour oil changes, and I think it's 200-hour spark plugs. So, you know, I'm going to do 50-hour oil changes anyway, just because I'm like that. But if you use more than 30% or less than 70% of auto fuel, sorry, I said that wrong. So if, in other words, if 70% of the time auto fuel is going in this, you have 100 hours. If less than that, you need, in other words, if you mix 100 low lead in there, you have to do 50-hour oil changes, and I believe 100-hour spark plugs. Anyway. All right, I've got a little mount here, trying to work out my camera mount. You'll see some views when I post future videos, but I've got an Insta360 X5 that I put on this short little stick. I put the short stick there because I only have one point of mount. There's a gentleman out of Europe that has been kind enough to share his mounting technique, and I think he had a GoPro stick-on like helmet mount that had the little jogger downer that you could basically, and then he modified this and had a pole go through it and then anchor to that. But this was the primary anchor source. So it provides two anchor points and therefore a more stable, less bouncy camera. Anyway, all right, out onto the wingtips. You've got the nice lights that are built in, all flush mounted. This has flaperons. So you notice the flaps and the ailerons go the full length of the wing. So those are called flaperons. Basically, when you engage flaps, these just go down, right? So you're operating with creating more drag with the flaps and able to slow down, and gives it good maneuverability at slow speeds. All right, we've got a baggage area here. I'll go ahead and open it up for you. There are two ways to access the baggage area. This is the first. I would say this is kind of for just everyday stuff. Like I keep the wind's gonna mess with me here, and I keep a little bag right here, little North Face bag, and inside of that I keep some tools, just small tools. I've got a battery tender in here. I've got my POH and all of that in there as well. The ballistic parachute, gonna be hard to kind of see back in here, but I'll go ahead and try to put it in there and see if it shows. That's the parachute there. And this is gonna go haywire on me. There we go. Anyway, that's the first way to access the baggage compartment. I'll go ahead and lock that up. All right, so the second way is to actually remove these. And because I'm one-handed, I'm not going to, but there's a large opening right here. Basically, the entire seat back is an opening into the baggage area. So there's more room in there than you think, or than you would think, rather. That, again, the whole back seat. So you could, what we do is we have two medium-sized North Face duffels, and you could pack for, if you're a traveler like I am, you know how to pack for a week very lightly, 3 days of clothes and wear them twice type of thing. No big deal. Anyway, 55-pound baggage capacity. We had that maxed out coming back from Heber City. And, the good thing about this, you can fit like the useful load on this is 1420. 1420. It states 1320, but there's an addendum, I guess, that gives you an additional 100 pounds. At any rate, 1420 max takeoff weight. All right, up top here, we've got the antennas, the GPS, the ballistic parachute area right here. These are the straps to the parachute, the harness, that go to the fuselage and hold it in suspension if that thing were to be deployed. Beautiful fuselage, all carbon. All right, so we've got the rear section here. Give a shout out to Elemental Aviation. Dealt with Kagan Nelson out there. Jake, the maintenance guy, is awesome. Director of Operation, I think, is his title, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But the whole team out there is great. Elemental out of Utah. Give them a call if you're interested in one of these aircraft. I believe I got the first 2026. I hope you can read that. But boom! I was so stoked when I thought I was getting a 2025 because I engaged in this before the end of last year. And I basically paid for it up front and wanted to get the purchase done last year for reasons, tax reasons and stuff. But ended up picking up this aircraft in March of 2026, thinking around January, January, I was thinking I was getting a 2025 and that the 2026s would be like the second half of 2026, and I didn't want to wait. So, I'm paying for a hangar here. It's just a rental hangar. They're really hard to get in this area. So I didn't want to wait, and I didn't want to be without an aircraft for 4 or 5 months or whatever. So I was willing to accept a 2025, and I got lucky and got a 2026. So got to be stoked on that. All right, just kind of coming around this side. You've seen one wing, you've seen them all, but you can get a nice view of the top of the wing surface, and then I'll give you an underside view as well. So strutless, really good visibility on this thing. I would say that's one of the real key things about this thing. I know, Daryl Zubat out of Canada. Shout out to you, bud. You're one of the inspirations for me looking deeper into this aircraft. He's got a great channel. Check him out. I'll try to put a link in the description for his channel. He does a lot of great work. He also just got a 3-blade prop, but he went with the Helix. So we're going to be battling to see who gets top performance. Haha. Anyway, let's see. Okay, so Garmin. This is a Garmin AOA. It's like a GI 275 or something like that. Anyway, forgive me if I'm not a technical geek with all this stuff. I don't try to memorize every little component nomenclature, but it's a Garmin AOA. So it's also a pitot tube, obviously. So it's got your pitot, and then your pitot static, and then your other holes here that provide angle of attack information for the aircraft. All right, so let's see what else. Really cool. I hope you can see this, but you've got like carbon fiber finish on everything. The Rotax is just such an impressive engine. I got to tell you, man, after coming off of I don't want to say antiquated, Lycoming engines. The one I had in the Diamond DA40 was the IO360 M1A, and those are considered pretty bulletproof, right? But, and it was. That went to a great owner that I sold it to up in Washington. But I'm just really happy with this choice because the only sacrifice I really have with this airplane The only thing it doesn't beat the Diamond at, and it really beats the Diamond at in every category: speed, cruise speed, efficiency, gallons per hour, all of that. Altitude, 18,000 feet, service ceiling versus 16.4 on the Diamond. I saw 140 knots true on this the other day, 2 days ago, at 6,000 feet, burning 5.5 gallons. I think I'm going to get more than that. I'm playing with the settings, the RPM settings and such. So stay tuned on more performance. But this thing hauls butt. Okay. Let me show you. We're going to go ahead and get on the inside here. And forgive me about, again, the videoing is going to be kind of difficult one-handed with kind of going through all this. But first of all, look at this sexy leather, man. I mean, we chose this. It's all Italian leather, and we chose this color. It's called like cioccolata or something. It's Italian, and then it's got this black accent here with a white strip down the middle, and I just think it looks sharp as heck, man. It's like kind of feels like a BMW or something, you know. And we chose the green for the accent color. Super slick looking. These are what they call the tall person seats or what have you. They're way thicker than the other ones that come down to like maybe like right here. They're thicker up here to support the back of your legs, but they're actually cut back and thinner here in the butt section. So what it does in effect is gives you some more headroom up top here. So that was the one thing that had me guessing about this aircraft. I'm 6'3", and you know, I'm not gonna lie, I was banging my head a little bit up in those posts up there. The bars going across the support bars. But, you know, to be honest with you, once you kind of find your little nook, it doesn't even bother you anymore. Your head just kind of sits up in that little section. So I kind of got over that. I also put some foam padding, went to Home Depot. I'll probably get some nicer stuff at some point, some of the neoprene that's closed cell, kind of give it a little more refined look. Okay, let's see. Let's go down. Well, let me show you a couple things I've done. I've got my camera mount right here for flying. I moved these headset holders facing forward. Previously, they were facing rearward, and I relocated them a little bit because I installed these ATV visors right here. And these are great. They swivel all around. They're really cheap. They're like Amazon, like $25 or $20. Russ Freeze down south of me, out of Salado. He's also another guy that I found on YouTube, and we've actually connected and kind of been chopping it up. So shout out to Russ for giving me the recommendation on these. Let's see. Okay, we've got the compass up there, the standard compass. I'll walk you through. We've got a little cubby in here on each side, on the pilot and co-pilot side, to store personal stuff, water bottles, phone, whatever. I have this Mob Armor magnetic foam base. So this kind of just, it's a MagSafe version, and it just sticks right there. And it's got a stick that you put on the dash. I don't want to drill any holes in this thing. The only hole I wanted to drill was that angle of attack indicator on the top. You've got two USB ports, both USB-C on this side, and those are hot all the time. Notice the really nice carbon fiber panel. Just love this. You've got I'll go ahead and show you the rudder and brakes on this side. So obviously your rudder pedals are on this, your toe brakes are here. They're adjustable. You lift this up and you slide the pedals forward and aft. So I'm one-handed, so I can't do that. Got a center stick design here with a push button to talk on the top. We've got obviously the prop control and the throttle. And you've got your fuel selector here. You've got your trim. And you've got your flaps. Now, with this aircraft, you have flaps +1, flaps +2, and negative flaps. So in cruise, you get better cruise performance. It basically pitches the nose down a little bit and gives you negative flaps for cruise. You get a little better efficiency. We take off with +1. I land with +1 most of the time. Just because I feel like changing this aircraft with the 3-blade prop creates enough drag when you pull the power that I don't need that second notch of flaps really. Maybe if I'm trying to get real short, I will, but I've been really liking landing with a flaps plus one. And I've talked to other guys in the community, and sounds like some other guys do as well. Let me walk around the other side here. Is there anything on this side? Yeah, let me talk about here's the ballistic parachute pin right here. That's that. Obviously you have your headset jacks here. I copied the guys at Kagan at Elemental, had them clipped. There's a little clip up there, the Bose clips, and you just clip it right there and it hangs there. Kind of keeps it out of the way. You've got your air brakes here. Okay. They're not up right now, but that's just released. There's detent number 1. That's like half air brakes or what have you. And then there's full, and I'll show you what those look like from outside. Way cool. I honestly, again, I don't really use these super often unless I'm really high on final and I need to lose altitude, or if you're en route and getting ready to start your descent and you got caught slipping in or behind the airplane or whatever and you need to get down quick, you could use these. I think 100 knots, if I'm not mistaken, is the deploy speed on these. I believe that's what it is. At any rate, let me put those up. And those just go like stowed right back in there. You've got up top there, you've got a fuel gauge and a bubble on the top will appear as it gets lower. I was told that the bubble, once that bubble shows itself at the very top, it is at 6 gallons, and then you go down and it's basically 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The red is what looks like 1.5 gallons. So you really don't want to be down in the red. This thing gets such good fuel economy that there's no need to, be running low. There really isn't. Just put some more fuel in it. It's got nice Italian leather cover here. Basically, the wings are very easy to take off, and I'll show you that as I transition to the pilot side. They, like a glider, they use this gap seal tape. This needs to be replaced every once in a while, but if you remove the wings, it takes literally 20 minutes, 30 minutes, you can have these wings off. And they're very easy to install. And basically this, I guess it's the spar, just goes all the way through. I think it's called a spar. All the way through on this side for that wing, and then the other one on the other side comes through, and they just basically are combined with a big bolt going through the middle, and then 2 other big lever rods going through either side. So we'll come over to the pilot side here, and I want to show you a little more here. Let me go ahead and turn on the ignition here so you can see. Let me get these headsets out of the way. This is going to be kind of a raw video, guys. I'm sorry, but this is how we roll. So I carry a backup radio, whether I'll ever need it or not, but I keep that right here. Ever lose comms, that's kind of one of those things that you don't want to have to do, but if you do, I got that. And I do have I keep a bag, like a little flight bag in here, right here. I've got paper backup checklists here for emergency and regular, standard. But in this bag, I've got everything from a flashlight. It's kind of like a ditch bag. If I were to go down somewhere, I've got a lighter, I've got, some medical stuff, very little. I've got a tourniquet, some other stuff in there, a flashlight, headlamp, different stuff like that. But at any rate, I've also got a plug for this, so I can connect this to my headset. I don't need to try to yell or try to listen. It's going to be hard to hear in the cockpit, even though this cockpit's very quiet. All right, I've got my iPad pivot case mount right here. I'm running the iPad 11 Pro. It's big. I'll be honest, it's a little too big, but it's, more modern and new than the iPad 6 mini that I've got, and I don't want to go buy another small one. They're just expensive, and I already have the Pro, so I'm running that. It's kind of like having a second G3X screen. Whoop, forgot to turn on the Avionics. Well, here, anyway, okay. I should have showed you. So I've got some install changes I've done, some upgrades inside the cockpit here. First and foremost, the complement to that Garmin AOA pitot static system that comes in and communicates with the G3X. I'm going to go ahead and hit continue, and you notice I've had this set up to go straight to checklist. So it's not the right checklist because I have in-flight emergencies, engine failure at takeoff, the first checklist, and then landing emergencies, engine, all that type of stuff. I always have the emergencies first, but sorry, I'm all over the place here. The angle of attack indicator comes to the G3X and pops up right here, but it's already pretty busy in here. I really wanted this here up right in kind of a field of view, and you can see how bright this thing is. It's just awesome. I love this thing, and it's already, all you do is buy this thing, and I think it was like $300. Now you got to pay somebody to put it in, unless you know how to do that. I don't, but basically it connects to the existing system. So all it's doing is reading the data that was already provided here in a more consumable way, in my opinion. All right. All right, I'll hit continue on the GNX 375. So we've got the G3X Touch. We've got the Garmin Autopilot with the blue level button. Really nice autopilot. Got the GI 275, I believe it is, for the AOA indicator, which, again, so for those of you that don't know how that works, see that green level, that button right there, the green circle in the middle. That's basically like a perfect stabilized approach speed. So if you see that, and as you progress slower, those yellow then red come up, and it also provides audible alerts when you're getting close to stall. So this aircraft, when you take off, I rotate at 45 knots, and I climb out. If I'm VX is 60 knots. I'll fly. I usually, just because it's so damn fun, unless it's really hot or the engine's running hot, I'll climb out at 78, which is VY. But I love just pulling the stick back and letting this thing climb like a bat out of hell. I mean, it really climbs. It climbs so much that when I'm looking at airspeed for 60 knots, and to get 60 knots, like, your pitch attitude is stupid steep, and you're not even close to stalling. So look, VS1 is 53 knots on this. At 60, it's almost like scary, like steep, but it'll go to 47 with VSO flaps +2. Okay, so talking about flaps and talking about approach, you've got the minimum speed for flaps, or maximum speed for flaps deployed +1 is 81, for +2 is 65. So if you're going to go negative flaps, you want to do that. You want to take it out of negative flaps to 0 at or below 135. G3X Touch, I'll get in, I'll go here, do pre-flight walk around, and I'll work my way through the checklist. I had to build this checklist. It does not come standard on the G3X. You basically download on the Garmin website, the Garmin, same one you get your avionics updates. You download the Excel spreadsheet, basically, that's formatted exactly as it needs to be, and you go in and add all this. It took a couple hours, but maybe even more than that. But it is stored on this SD card right here. So you have to leave the SD card in for that checklist to show up. You don't need the SD card in for the avionics or for the updates, just to do the update. But once the update's done, you could remove that. I leave it in so the checklist works. So you just progress your way through it. And it actually, I haven't touched the paper checklists in quite some time, month or two. And the only part of the flight, the stage of flight that I have a hard time doing this is on approach. Like, I start my descent. So here, takeoff is the last one. You go through here, and we're going to go to descent approach. This one's kind of easy. I do that when I start thinking about getting, 10, 15 miles out from the airport or whatever, when you start your descent. But once you kind of come into the pattern, the before landing checklist, these things, you know, I don't like to put the prop full forward on this until I get like basically a beam the numbers or so. So this is the checklist that the before landing that I'm kind of having a hard time doing in the pattern, because I don't want to be looking down in the pattern at a checklist. I want to be, you know, paying attention to what's going on outside, because the pattern is the most, you know, high workload, dangerous kind of part of the flight, right? So looking for traffic and other things going on. I'll figure this out though. Really, I've got a flow that I go through and it works really well. But basically it's just, you know, auxiliary fuel pump on, landing light on, prop full forward, power set, trim set, flaps +1, and air brakes as required. That's my kind of pre-landing checklist. I don't use gumps really because it doesn't apply really well to what I've got going on here. I mean, it does. It applies to any airplane. But I really, when I bought this airplane and I own it, I figured I'm going to create a flow for me that works really well with this airplane. All right, G3X. This isn't an in-depth tutorial on the G3X, but we all know how this works. You've got the moving map and split screens, engine, fuel calculator, all that stuff. But anyway, there we go there. G5 backup, GNX 375, really nice little unit. You know, I thought that was going to be a negative. Like when I first started shopping, I was like, hey, can you put a GTN 650 in there? I want a big old screen. You really don't need it. Everything transposes over to the G3X anyway. You do have to do some things on the GNX 375, modifying your flight plan, things like that on this, which is totally fine. COM 1 is down here. Active is 1228. That's our CTAF here at Cleburne Municipal or Cleburne Regional. And then COM 2 with nav 1. So it only has one nav radio, but this makes this a fully legal IFR platform, which is really cool. Stoked on this. All right, we've got the ELT, we've got the slip skid indicator, we've got a dimming switch here so you can dim the cockpit really easily, as you see. So now I've got up to 100%. Let's see what else. Let's go down. All right, so we've got the water cooler fan. This is a new 2026 edition. Already had some comments on my Facebook about that. Guys are checking that out because they're like, wait a minute. Pipistrel got the program, and you know, these Rotax run hot. That's been my biggest acclamation. If you go into an airport where you know that you're going to end up with a long taxi or wait in line to take off and depart, get your stuff done and be ready. And don't be afraid to flip this thing around on a dime and face into the wind. Put your feet on the brakes and rev it up to 3,000 RPM and just sit there. The prop wash will provide enough cooling at roughly 3,000 RPM to keep the engine cool, even in really hot conditions. I had it out like almost 100 degrees, and I had to do that and got caught in a long departure out of Denton. They had a flight school up there, and there was just like 10 airplanes getting ready to depart, and I was stuck in it. You have two options. You know, the max oil temperature is 258, I believe. And again, don't quote me exactly. I think it's 258, and I want to say the coolant temperature is 248. They're about 256 and 248. Coolant temperature is the lower, so I watch that, and as long as you don't get over that, you're good. If you do, you need to either shut it down or friggin' get it down, and you get it down by facing into the wind and throttling up. Anyway. All right, so we've got the two nav comms and the let's talk about the dash, or rather the panel. So I've got this really cool Midwest Panel Builders makes this thing called the IntelliKey. Previous to that, this is the key for the ignition of the airplane, and it went right there into a key. Well, the keys hang right over my switches and the landing light specifically. So every time, you know, if you're doing laps in the pattern or if you're doing whatever, this thing, the keys were just in the way. So when I saw Midwest had that, I was like, oh man, it's on. And I bought that. So how this works, you have this key fob right here, and it's paired with the IntelliKey. So when I pull up to the hangar and I come inside, the courtesy light will, or the system will sense this key fob, and this courtesy light, I hope you can see that right here, I had to spin the camera around, will come on and give you cockpit light. So if it's, you know, early in the morning or late at night, you'll have light inside the cockpit to be able to come inside and do what you need to do. It stays on for 5 minutes. Once the system senses this key fob is in, and you flip the master on, it goes from red around the edge here to green. If you don't have the key fob and you get in and flip the master on, that's going to stay red and it will not let you start the engine. Now there is a backup, you know, if you, for whatever reason, lost your key fob or it wasn't working, you can open the app and start it that way. You can also put it in like, I think they call it, not demo mode, but air show mode. So like, say you had your airplane parked at in a public area and you didn't want a kid or somebody to get in here and flip this on and accidentally press this, you can disable it. So it's got some really cool features. Adam up at Midwest Panel Builders was really helpful on that. I had some technical issues with the ingress light not coming on. It works now for whatever reason, but he was helpful in getting that troubleshot. Let's see, what else have I done? The key fob, IntelliKey, the GI 275, and I think that's about it, guys. So I'm gonna go ahead and flip the camera back around. So you can see I'm sitting in here right now. I'm 6'3". You know, when I put my headset on, that's the part that literally I thought long and hard about. I test flew this airplane, flew out in advance, and met with Kagan Nelson out there at Elemental, and he took me up in a similar plane. It was a tail dragger actually, so he did the takeoff and landing. I'm not tail certified. But he let me, you know, I got to go fly it, and it was a very comparable airplane. Obviously very different than this now with the 3-blade prop, but that's the, I just really was impressed with the overall performance. It's so easy to fly. I mean, it is so easy to fly. The landings for me were a little, I thought I was going to just step into the cockpit and just own the landings right away, but I didn't. And it humbled me a little bit because we were at a higher density altitude, close to 9,000 feet, 8,800 feet, the day that Kagan and I went out to an airport outside of Utah. They're already at a pretty high elevation, but we went to a mountain kind of airport and did some landings. And my first landing was horrendous. Like, I was so embarrassed. But you know, now I've got it down. He told me basically you land this a lot flatter than you would a general aviation aircraft. Tricycle gear, I'm landing it with, he says, a fist worth of distance between the ground and the nose wheel when you touch down the mains. So that's been the challenging part, is breaking that habit of like wanting to get into a full stall type landing. I think that what I've switched my brain to think is be on speed, which is slower than I'm used to. That's the other thing. You know, we're landing at 60, 65, depending on flaps. You know, just touching down in a flatter attitude has been the challenge. And it handles crosswinds pretty well. On the way back from Utah, no joke, I came into Cleburne here, and it was 18 gusting 26, runway 15, and winds were out of 190. So it was about a 40-degree crosswind and gusting really good. And it was sporty for sure, but I got the landing down. Taxiing, got to be careful. These are light airplanes, so you want to make sure that you're taxiing with the appropriate inputs. But yeah, anyway, I hope you enjoy the video. Check out Pipistrel, the Virus SW. You don't see a lot of these out there. Everyone's, you know, the Sinus is one of the popular ones. Very economical aircraft. Don't get caught slipping and sleep on the Virus, man. This thing is a little hot rod, man. I'm stealing that term because Russ down south told me, he's like, he has a Virus and he's got 2 Sinuses. I said, you know, why don't you fly the Virus more? And he's like, I just love these Sinus, you know, they're so easy to fly and they're so economical, and that's cool. He really has mastered his art on that aircraft. So I always like watching other pilots, especially ones that are squared away, and learning from them and gleaning techniques and stuff like that. So I'm going to try to post as much content as I can on this with this aircraft. So I hope you enjoy it. We are going to be doing some speed testing. As I said, I saw 140 true on this with this prop at 6,000 feet, burning 5.5 gallons the other day, 2 days ago, in clean air. It was just pretty smooth. I had about a 5-knot crosswind and it was like a 20-knot crosswind and a 5-knot or 2-knot tailwind, something like that. So wasn't like favored by the wind. It's a fast airplane. It really is. And anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and we'll do more. Talk to you later.